The number 3 signifies the triangle. The triangle signifies the start of creation, the degree of two extremes, the polarity and the balance. In Vortex Math Part 7, I stated that geometry is a tool for finding the perfect balance. In Freemasonry, they use geometry to put powerful symbolism into their structures. Further investigation reveals that another Freemason...
So, why did they use the symbol of the pentagram? Well, the pentagram is perhaps the oldest graphic on the planet, discovered in ancient Babylon for centuries. For millennia, it was tied to light, to creation. It has these connections of divine geometry. Actually, if you look further and connect all the tip points of the pentagram in Washington, D.C., it reveals a powerful pattern. Metatron is mentioned in the Pseudepigrapha, and most prominently in the Hebrew Merkabah Book of Enoch. Metatron's cube is a two-dimensional geometric figure created from 13 equal circles. 6 circles are placed in a hexagonal pattern around a central circle, with 6 more extending out along the same radial lines. Metatron's cube is considered one of the most sacred of the ancient geometrical symbols, and one that encodes the 5 Platonic solids. The Platonic solids are the 5 polygons that can be constructed within a sphere, and are named after the Greek philosopher Plato. Metatron's cube is directly related to the Holy 108 of Phi. It always starts with the dot. Connecting the 2 dots, it becomes a triangle. The underlying pattern is spiral or spiritual in nature, the Fibonacci sequence or the vortex. As it unfolds, it wishes to inform us about the cyclical nature of the cosmos. Planets, stars, galaxies, seasons, and even life and death itself are cyclical. In Nikola Tesla's quote, he says, "Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality." So it means what they're doing in Washington, D.C. is not just a superstition. What they're actually doing is aligning themselves to the universe. The structures they built with the connection to the stars, galaxies, cosmos, Earth, and creation.
that the planet Saturn has a hexagram, a perfect hexagram at its north pole. What very few people know is that this hexagram has been known about by ancient people
Stick
for
it
as
in
long
deeper.
as history has been recorded. People who did not have telescopes or the technology to view anything outside of the Earth's atmosphere besides the stars. That is quite the paradox. That's what's been on my mind lately about this subject. It is, number one, absolutely impossible for these people to have viewed Saturn, especially North Pole. Saturn being associated with the black cube, which has direct connection to the hexagon shape, which is a 2D format of the cube, proves to us without a doubt that these people over the centuries from all over the world understood that there was this anomaly at the peak of Saturn. This has led Saturn to be a leading role in astrology and mythology throughout the ages, and even to this day is part of our pop culture. So when you go down the rabbit hole of the Saturn mythology, you get into this Gnosticism, where Saturn is considered a great teacher, but through suffering specifically. It's been associated with the bringer of light, Lucifer, the primordial star, or the original black star is what it was called. It's also been called the black cube, of course the cube representing that 2D format of it, the hexagon at the top. And the people who understood that there was a hexagon at the North Pole of Saturn must have been either incredibly sophisticated technologically, which we're told is not so, or were able to somehow, with some extrasensory perception, understand the makeup of Saturn. So, if Saturn is here to teach us through suffering, I suppose it's not necessarily an evil force, but there is a price to be paid. The mythology that ties to Gnosticism seems to point in the direction of a sort of demiurge, or in Latin, the demiurgos, which is basically a deity decided to create a universe of its own, therefore creating a flawed reality. Like if you were to create a video game and you get one of the zeros or ones wrong within the coding, the entire game will be flawed. And this is what seems to be, in a way, responsible for our messy physical reality. If this is so, is this something that is objectively real outside of us, or is it something that we project, or could it be a combination of both? Could it be that our reality is indeed a form of a syntax error that is somehow projected by Saturn as a being itself? And if so, does that mean that despite living within this flawed reality, we are still endowed with the divine spark? We seem to have God consciousness within animal bodies. So there seems to be a rift between the animal body and the God consciousness. Going back to the video game metaphor, even though the video game would be flawed, there is still the spark of the original author's purpose within the characters of the game, limited to the five senses, the five physical senses that we perceive reality through, of which we know is very thin compared to the actual spectrum of reality. Could it be that what the Bible described as original sin, synonymous with this idea of living within a flawed reality? But how does that make us living in a form of a school? And if we are indeed part of this flawed reality, that means that anything that is not in alignment with divine source should be wiped clean and start over, maybe from scratch. But however, this hasn't happened as we still live in this reality. How can it be so that if we live in a flawed, messy physical reality that doesn't actually represent true existence, how is it that we have been saved from being wiped clean from this hard drive? And that is where Christ seems to step into the picture. Now, this is quite a bit to unbox, and I realize that, but the evidence is absolutely staggering, whether it be mythological, scientific, or numerical. When you connect the dots, it seems as if there is something very strange and very otherworldly and divine happening. Does that beg the question, now that we have been saved, are we now responsible for transforming our reality into heaven, paradise. What can mathematics and astrology and religion and science tie together with this particular shape? This is Metatron's cube. As you can see, it is a hexagram, just like we have at the North Pole of Saturn. You can see that it can be viewed as a cube at the correct angle. That's why it's called Metatron's cube, a two-dimensional form of a cube. Thus, Saturn, throughout the ages, being called the black cube. So let's start off by talking about Saturn itself. We know that Saturn is in position 6, in according to the source of our solar system being the sun, and Earth is in position of 3. We just recently rid ourselves of Pluto, which comes in at 9. It also has been discovered that Pluto actually does have a magnetic field despite its size. Technically making it a planet, but I mean, how many times do we want to go back and forth with that? But that 3, 6, and 9, those numbers are interesting. Anyone who is a fan of Nikola Tesla, the Holy Trinity, or sacred geometry understands that divinity seems to have ties with those 3 numbers in a very deep way. The connection between Saturn and the hexagonal black cube was not taken seriously by our modern age until 1981, when a scientific breakthrough changed everything. The Voyager sent back sharp images of this anomaly at the North Pole of Saturn planet. Something we turn to theology, religion, hermeticism, and mythology to better understand what's happening here. Is Saturn sentient? Is there a possibility that as above, so below, just like the bacteria in our gut is alive, what if we are the bacteria within the gut of our solar system? And Saturn is somehow responsible for our physical reality, that being our 5 senses. It seems as if the tetrahedron, the triangle, and of course the cube represent sentience. For the first time, we have this evidence of sentience being performed by a so-called dead planet. I would be the first one to admit I would love to subscribe to a theory that these ancient people had technology to see the hexagon on top of Saturn. Maybe those from Atlantis or civilizations before that. Perhaps civilizations of intelligent human beings, or even non-human intelligence, we don't fucking say that, is somehow able to see these things and through cataclysms like the Younger Dryas wiped out and start over. But I can't put any physical evidence on it. All we know for sure is that they did know that Saturn had this cube involved with it. Perhaps they looked within. Is it a form of meditation? We can only speculate as to how Saturn has been called the Black Cube for thousands of years. We have to keep in mind throughout this entire thing that our ancients spoke in the language of symbols. You can go ahead and throw that away. You can make noise. What are you doing? Don't. All right, well, you can.
I wanted to see me right off the bat.
Yeah, with no shirt on. All right, you can at least get dressed first. They spoke in a language of symbols. We know that language is limited. You can throw it away. It's a game of telephone. When language moves from person to person, culture to culture, it changes. It doesn't stay uniform. Symbology does, mathematics does. There are concrete ways of communicating from generation to generation. Can this anomaly on Saturn tie together religion